So good morning everyone and welcome to the IPS International and National Careers Service Virtual Careers Fair. So I'm Julia Inshaw, I'm from the National Careers Service and I'll be chairing today's event for you. So we're really excited to bring you a fantastic morning of sessions which are really jam-packed with information about apprenticeships. So over the course of the morning you can receive advice on how to find apprenticeships, the types of opportunities available to you, advice on how you can make a successful application, and as well as that we'll be introducing you to several Kent and Medway employers who all have live apprenticeship vacancies available and who are going to talk to you about what they are and what they look for in a candidate. So each of the sessions will last around 20 minutes and we really encourage you as you're listening to ask any questions that you might have for our speakers. So please, if you do have any questions, please ask them in the Q&A chat box and each of our speakers will stay on after their session to answer all of those for you. So without further ado, let's get started. I'd like to introduce to you our first speaker, Steve Watering from the National Careers Service, who will be talking to you all about how to find apprenticeship opportunities and how to make the best application possible. Over to you, Steve.
My name's Steve Watering. I work for National Careers Service, and just as a little heads up about us as a service, this is our customer charter in brief. It highlights our commitment to you as potentially customers of National Careers Service and tapping into that service. And one of the things that I always highlight is not all of these points, but just the one in the middle at the top that says we provide ongoing support. So if there's certain things that you think, oh, actually, I could do with help with, say, CV writing, interview skills, techniques and things like that, then obviously feel free to give us a shout and we'll provide that ongoing support. The next slide, though, highlights the first part of the session, which is looking at sourcing an apprenticeship. I just highlighted here four key ways of actually going about doing that. So you've got the National Apprenticeships website. Obviously they're full apprenticeships, so when you're thinking about an apprenticeship, it's basically, just as a general rule of thumb, spending say 4 days in the workplace and 1 day with a training provider learning about the skills and attributes needed for the actual job, and then putting that into practice for another 4 days and then learning more and developing your skills like that. So that means you've got an employer on one side of things and a training provider on the other. All the ones which are advertised on the National Apprenticeships website have both the employer and the training provider in place. And those apprenticeships are also often advertised on other job sites like Indeed, Jobs in Kent and other ones. But you've also got training providers, and obviously IPS are hosting this session today, but IPS will have links with lots of employers and also have apprenticeships organised and ready in place. But there'll be other training providers as well that maybe have got contacts with other employers, but as yet haven't got an apprentice ready to fill a vacancy, so they're waiting for people to apply. So it's always good to actually contact relevant training providers direct to let them know you're interested in getting an apprenticeship, and then they can use their contacts to see whether there's somebody suitable for that vacancy moving forward. The other thing you can do is contact employers directly. So and we've highlighted the word speculatively there. So it's maybe there's not an apprenticeship actually being advertised with an employer, but you might be thinking, well, you know what, I would like to work for X employer. Say you're thinking of doing mechanics, for example, and you might just mail shop, say 4 or 5 of your local garages, letting them know that you're interested in doing an apprenticeship, and they might be thinking, well, actually we could do with taking on new staff, and therefore think about hooking you up with them and a training provider, and then you become an apprentice that way. So they're the 3 key steps: the full apprenticeship as highlighted on the National Apprenticeships website, contacting training providers directly and getting them to help you maybe find a suitable employer, or contacting the employer directly yourself and then linking up with a relevant training provider after that. So that's the kind of 3 key ways that you can source the apprenticeship. But when it comes to preparing a successful application, I would say there's the key thing is to always look at the job spec. or the Apprenticeship Job Specification, but also there is the job profile on the National Careers Service website that you can refer to. So I'm going to go into a little bit of detail on both of these. So the first example I'm going to show you is an Apprenticeship Job Specification. So this is one that I took off the National Apprenticeships website. It's for a nursery educator at Hedgehogs Childcare, and these are the skills that they're highlighting that they're looking for. So obviously when you're making an application, what you want to do is convince that employer that you've got communication skills, that you're good at working as part of a team, that you've got a good eye for or attention to detail, that you are creative, can use your initiative, etc., etc. So that's one source of finding out what the actual employer is looking for, and that's a good job spec there, because they're highlighting those skills and qualities very clearly. But not all jobs are necessarily advertised as clearly as that one, so you might find the National Careers website quite useful. And this is what our website looks like. We've got an Explore Careers section, and you can type in a job and click search, but equally we've got over 800 careers hidden behind 25 different career areas as highlighted below. But let's imagine we typed in nursery assistant. There's the actual job profile itself, so it says it could be advertised as nursery assistant, early years educator, preschool assistant, playgroup assistant, childcare worker. That's useful, especially if you're looking at setting up searches to try and find suitable vacancies. But then there's all this information below, so it tells you about the starting higher end of the salary, and then underneath that it's got expandable information, so how to become, what it takes, what you'll do, and so on and so forth. The one I want to draw your attention to is the what it takes. So if you were to click on the plus sign there, it would come up with a list of skills, qualities that you're likely to need for the role. So you can use both the job spec and our website as useful points of reference when it comes to identifying the skills that the employer is going to be looking for. But then the next step would obviously be tailoring your application to those skills and therefore that role. But this is the key point, as it highlights here. Don't forget, the employer is looking for potential, not a finished article. And that's the whole point of being an apprentice. You're not expected to know everything straight away, otherwise you'd be going in as a fully qualified member of staff. As an apprentice, they want to see your potential. So that's the key message here, is look at all the different skills, qualities they're asking for, and try and demonstrate your potential for each one of those when you're applying. How can you do that? Well, there's different ways you can potentially highlight the skills that you've got. It could be through paid employment or work experience placements that you might have done in school, or voluntary work that you might have done outside of school and education. Equally, you can highlight your skills through your education and training, and even potentially your interests and hobbies. So what I will do is go through each one of these in a little bit more detail, just to give you a bit of food for thought on how you can do that. So this example here is based on a lady that I did see who came out of school, sixth form, and she was looking to get into work. And she said, well, I've not got much by the way of experience. In total, the experience that she had was 5 days of work, and most of it was on a voluntary basis. In fact, I think all of it was. But for 2 days, she spent some time doing some charity work. And I'm not going to put which charity she was doing that for, because obviously there's client anonymity here. But what I wanted to highlight is the amount of detail that we got from her when we were discussing this particular job that she was doing, or the voluntary work that she was doing. So when I was saying to her, okay, you may feel like you've not got a lot of experience, it's just about 5 days worth, but let's unpack it and make the most of the experience that you have got. So when we were talking about our charity work, I said, well, what did you do to raise the charity? So she started telling me that she obviously contacted the charity to discuss raising money for their organisation, She gained promotional material from them so that she could hand that out on the actual day. She prepared raffle tickets and items so that they could sell those and get money to obviously make money for the charity. And that included selling tickets to the public. It involved taking money, giving change, engaging with the public, encouraging the purchase of tickets, and so on and so forth. So you sort of think, actually, she did quite a lot of legwork as her responsibilities just in those 2 days. Equally important, though, was she achieved quite a lot during that time. So she took responsibility for identifying and contacting a charity to raise money for. So that was one of her achievements, because they were in a little group, and as part of the team, she took the lead and she said, yeah, I'll contact the charity and we'll sort that out. And then on the day, she let on obviously that they were second most successful charity money raiser out of the 25 different stalls on that day. And I said, well, here you go. These kind of things say very important things about you as an individual. So if we take the top one, taking responsibility for identifying and contacting a charity, it takes a certain amount of get up and go in an individual to actually be brave enough to contact an employer like that or a charity. It highlights the communication skills and negotiation skills as well. And then the second most successful charity funding raiser out of the 25 different stalls also highlights something else, i.e. that they were good at interacting with the public, encouraging them to spend their money and raise that money for the charity. So you sort of think there's quite a bit that those two achievements say about her as an individual. Now, what I always encourage people to do when they're thinking about work experience, voluntary work or paid work, is always think about your work in terms of day-to-day responsibilities. So if it was a cleaner, it might be emptying the bins, cleaning toilets, dusting, hoovering. But what are your achievements? So it might be that you've been trained in something like how to operate a buffing machine, or it might be that you've had positive feedback from the company that you've worked for when it comes to the standard of the work that you've completed. So it's things like that you want to look out for and just try and make the most of that work experience. And again, if you get stuck with that sort of thing, or you're thinking, oh, that's not really me, I'm not very good at showcasing myself or bigging myself up, then obviously contact us, because we're happy to talk that through with you. And as we're talking with you, ideas will come into our mind as to which bits could be your responsibilities and which bits would be your potential achievements, and can help you through that process. But that's one avenue. Another avenue could be your education and training. So if you think about different subjects that you've studied at school, think about, well, what skills did I actually use in those particular lessons? And I thought I'd use physical education as an example, but say you were doing team sport for some of your lessons, then obviously you're demonstrating that team working ability. If it was, say, playing football, because that's a team sport, you've got the communication with your other players on the pitch, maybe your manager on the sidelines. There's potential problem solving, so you might have let in a few goals and you're thinking, problems were getting roasted here, how do we deal with that? And then there's maybe the use of initiative, maybe the kind of sports equipment's not there and you've realised that, and you trot off to the sports hall and grab the cones and the bibs that you might be wearing for playing the sport, and the teacher's pleased that you've done that because you've used your initiative and saved them a job. Playing that sport shows a level of physical fitness as well, and there might be a degree of patience, because there might be certain players on your team who hog the ball or are not too good at playing football or something like that, and you feel frustrated, but you don't shout and scream at them, but you patiently try and encourage them along and make the experience a lot better. There's the organisational side of things, so you sort of think being on a pitch, who's where, and sometimes you can have a bit of a ragged defence, say, but somebody might take it by the bull by the horn, so to speak, and organise a defence and say, okay, you're going over here, you're here, I'll be the sweeper behind, whatever, and you're organising, and then that nicely leads into the leadership side of things as well. So just with that as a subject, physical education, you can see you potentially use quite a lot of skills. And the same would be true with different subjects like science, history, maths, English, and so on and so forth. So have a little think about, well, what sort of skills did I use in my education? Because chances are you might not have a lot of work history, like the young lady that I helped with her CV. So you'll be relying a bit more on your education and training. So you need to have a good think about, well, how can I prove to an employer or prospective employer that I've got those skills through my education and training that I've done? And then the third one is interests and hobbies. So quite a few people say to me, is there any point in sticking interests and hobbies on the CV? Will the employer even be interested? Well, it depends what your interests and hobbies are. If you just say, well, I sit around watching the TV or play on the PlayStation, they're likely to be a bit unimpressed by that. But obviously, if you do things which are a bit more active and interactive, then obviously you sort of think there's potential scope. So what I thought I'd highlight here is an example of a family member helping, or you're helping a family member with, say, a DIY project, be it putting up a shed, putting up some fencing, laying a patio or whatever. Now, chances are not every young person is going to have that experience, but if you have, what skills and qualities did you make use of? Well, straight away, if you're making a shed, putting up a fence or laying a patio, you're going to be using a variety of tools. The other thing that you need to be aware of is your own health and safety and that of others around you, because you don't want leads running here, there and everywhere and being a trip hazard or accidentally cutting through them and electrocuting yourself or anything like that. So there's that health and safety awareness there. If you're making the shed, for example, you might need to be cutting wood to certain sizes. So there's measuring accurately, cutting accurately. So that's other skills. There's understanding of different building materials, so you know that what types of wood are there, which ones are good for actually using structural sort of, what's the word, I suppose structural timber, and which ones would be the cladding and so on and so forth. So it's demonstrating that you understand what the different materials are about and how they can be used. There's the attention to detail as well. So, you know, some people might put up a shed and it looks a bit ropey. Other people put one up and you think, wow, I would have thought you bought that from a shop because it's so precise. So it's thinking about things like that. Along the way, you might cut something in the wrong size and you think, oh, whoops, what do we do here? And we hadn't factored X, Y, or Z in, so there's a bit of problem solving skills there. And obviously there's a physical fitness and strength, because you might be lugging, I don't know, patio slabs around, or mixing cement and just throwing in the sand and the cement and mixing it all in a bucket or in a cement mix or whatever. All of those sorts of things can prove that you've got a wide variety of skills. So I suppose my key message here is, don't just think of it about, oh, I haven't got a lot of work experience or employment history. That's okay, because you're going for apprenticeship roles, and like we said, the employer's not expecting you to hit the ground running and know everything. That's the whole idea of being an apprentice, is you learn as you go along. But what they do want to see is your potential, and I think your interests, hobbies can show the potential. What you did at school can show that potential, and if you've got some work experience, even if it's quite short, I'm sure you can show your potential there. But I'm going to end this little presentation by asking the question, can you change a plug? And the reason I mention this is because some people look at the world of education as the be all and end all of things. And there was one young man who said, school said, oh, I'm a no-hoper because I'm not going to get my 5A to C grades at GCSE. And I just said to him, well, what do you kind of like doing in your spare time? And this is when he talked about that he does help his dad out with doing DIY and things like that. So I said to him, can you change a plug? And he said, yeah, of course I can. And at that point I said, well, my uncle, who's very academic. He used to be a university lecturer, but he's now retired. Said he wouldn't know where to start with changing a plug. And this young man looked at me and was like, really? He doesn't know how to change a plug? And to him, that was a revelation that somebody couldn't change a plug. But this is the thing, we've all got our strengths. And as I said to him, there's different types of intelligence as well. So you've got practical intelligence, academic intelligence, emotional intelligence, social intelligence. It's knowing what your intelligence is, or what your different intelligences are, and making good use of them. So, okay, you might not have got your A to C's at GCSE, but it doesn't mean you can't do a job. And with him, I highlighted at the end of the day, you can go in at level 2 and do it a traineeship, and then work your way up to do your apprenticeship. Or if you were able to bump your grades up, you might be able to go straight into your apprenticeship sort of level. But either way, you can still get there. And I said, and on top of that, people like my uncle who can't change a plug will be paying people like you who can. So I thought I'd end on that note, because sometimes I think people think, oh, are apprenticeships valuable? Yes, they are very valuable, and they're very relevant to very practical careers like the hairdressing, like the plumbing, the engineering, and all those sorts of careers where you're very hands-on and need to be able to demonstrate you can do the job. And there is the theory, but there's a big emphasis on the practical. But I hope that helps, and you enjoyed the presentation and you've got something from it. But like I said, we are here to provide that support for you. So if you want help with doing the application forms, or you're going to want to get an idea as to where your strengths are, you can always book an appointment with us, potentially either face to face or over the phone. And with that in mind, we will put a little link in the Q&A where you can click on that and register with us. But we will email that link to you as well, so it's up to you as to whether you do it now or a bit later. But that will help us to provide a bit more of a seamless service, because we'll find out a little bit more about you once you've filled it all out. And then obviously if you contact us, we can pick up where we've left off. So I'll hand over to Julia for now, and I'll head over to the Q&A to see if there's any questions and get cracking with those.
Thank you, Steve. Yeah, really informative session, as expected, with some great tips there, which I hope everyone's taken on board on where to look for apprenticeships, how to make a successful application. So Steve just mentioned he's now going into the Q&A. I see there's a few questions in there for you, Steve. And if anyone does have any questions for Steve about his presentation, or indeed about anything career related, Steve is a careers advisor with the National Careers Service, so they're there and available to kind of support you free of charge with any kind of careers advice. And I think what we'll do as well, Steve, is pop those details in the chat as well, so people know that they can contact the service afterwards for support if they need to. So thank you, Steve, and on to our second session where we welcome Sharon Sewell from IPS International, who'll be talking about everything you need to know about apprenticeships and traineeships. So over to you, Sharon.
As Julia said, my name's Sharon Sewell. I'm the Business Development Manager for IPS International, and I'll just start off today telling you a little bit about IPS. IPS are a training provider. We're actually based in Rochester, and we also have a centre in Dover. We help support people who are looking to build their employability skills and work experience within either a traineeship, or we also deliver apprenticeship training on behalf of our employers. I'm now going to explain a bit more about traineeships and how apprenticeships can benefit you when looking for a career path. At the end, as with Stephen, there will be a Q&A, and I'll be happy to answer any questions for you. So I think you should be able to, can you all see my PowerPoint here? Yep.
Yes, can, Sharon.
Okie doke. So I'm just going to do a short summary of a traineeship. It's like a pre-apprenticeship, really. It's a 10-week course that IPS offer, and traineeships are a skills development program that includes employability training, CV writing, application support and functional skills training. Traineeships also give people the option to try a specific sector. So a try before you buy, really, to see if that's the career path for you. Traineeships include a work placement of your choice. We really do try to get your work experience that will help stand you in good stead for the future and that you're interested in. And it will help you get ready for an apprenticeship or paid work or further education. And that's if you don't have the appropriate skills or experience. Next slide. Sorry. Traineeships help 16 to 24-year-olds or 25-year-olds with an educational healthcare plan. Support and guidance is offered by IPS and will always be available to give you information about traineeships and answer any inquiries that you have. The IPS Traineeship Officer is available by telephone or email within working hours. That's generally 8:30 till 5, Monday to Friday. And his contact details are on the screen, and this can be also shared with you if you call IPS. Okay. Right. We'll go to the questions at the end. Tell you a little bit now about what it is an apprenticeship. I don't want my slides going a bit askew. Apprenticeships are a government-funded education programme that includes employment, a wage and training. It's a system of training within a trade or profession with actual on-the-job skills training and accompanying study. So you are getting paid to train at no cost. Apprenticeships are a fantastic way of gaining real life experience, developing and gaining new skills whilst earning a wage and gaining a nationally recognised qualification. Apprenticeships incur no debt to the learner. Anyone who has left or will soon be leaving full-time education or training can apply for an apprenticeship, and anyone who is age 16 and above. So there is actually no age limit. Apprenticeships are for newer recruits and employed staff who are looking to upskill and develop new skills within the business. And how do you apply for an apprenticeship? You can apply online via any job advertising platform. There's a link here to the government website, and as Steve mentioned earlier, there are other job portals that you can go onto that are advertising for apprenticeships. And as Steve also mentioned, approaching an employer directly, employers love someone showing some initiative. In my experience, and I've been doing this for many, many years, if you actually seek out an employer and tell them that you actually want to come and work for them, it does stand you in good stead to be considered. We've had this happen in the past where a motor vehicle, as a young person that's really interested in vehicle maintenance, has approached an employer, had work experience with that employer, and then they've actually been taken onto an apprenticeship. So it does actually work. This is a famous apprentice. Jamie Oliver, as we know, started off in his cooking career just as a sous chef. So he became the celebrity that we now know, has a vast fortune. He's a face of TV, and he, as I've said, was an apprentice previously. I'm sure many of you will know who this is. I don't even watch football, but I know this is David Beckham. He also started off as an apprentice trainee footballer, and he's actually, we all know that he's gone from strength to strength. He's got various different fingers in lots of pies. He's not just an ex-footballer, he is an ambassador for the sport, he's an ambassador for apprenticeships, and I'm sure that he is what you would call an influencer on apprenticeships and going into a sport field. I'm just waiting for the next one. Ian McKellar, he started off as an apprentice in a theatre many years ago, and he's attributed his initial apprenticeship as being something that he learned his trade from. So he's actually a very good example of longevity of a career pathway. And I'm just going to run through some benefits of an apprenticeship that you may not know about, or it's worth looking at and considering again. You gain real life work experience. There's no specific entry requirements needed. Developing your knowledge and gaining new skills. Free training, no debt. The study can be for apprenticeship from a level 2 up to a level 9 and possibly beyond that in the future. You can kickstart your career within your chosen field of work, improve future prospects and boost your CV, earn a wage from day one, achieve a nationally recognised qualification. You also you benefit from the NUS cards. That's discounts for apprentices, so that could be sports facilities, retail shops, lots of different activities you actually could get a discount on. And it's a potential to gain a permanent position in the company after your apprenticeship is completed. IPS take on apprentices, and many of ours, they complete their apprenticeship and they become permanent members of staff. These are some examples of the types of apprenticeships that are out there. There are too many to mention, but I thought it was worth me just going through a few with you. Business skills, it comes under the umbrella of business skills, but there's business administration, customer service, accountancy, digital marketer, information communications technician, recruitment, vehicle maintenance, light and heavy vehicles, mentoring, management, team leading, HR. The ones I'm listing are ones that IPS actually deliver. We also deliver health and social care, so that's adult care, childcare, healthcare support, children and young people. And these are further examples. Engineering, there are simply, and I'm sure our guest speakers, the employers will vouch for this too, there are definitely not enough engineers in the UK, across the world really, but in the UK particularly. So there's varying different types of engineers. So some of them electrical and mechanical maintenance, mechanical manufacturing, fabrication and welding, railway engineering, technical support, control and instrumentation. And then we come on to manufacturing and construction. That's quite, it's an area that is really growing and growing as time goes on now, especially in the Kent area, construction, the amount of regeneration that's going on and the amount of jobs that are out there. So IPS actually delivers sign making and design, warehousing and logistics, property maintenance and building construction. That's like a multi-trade, so painting, decorating, bit of plumbing, tiling, that type of thing. Glazing and fenestration, so that's window fitting, waste management and facilities management. And what I would just like to add, the ones that IPS deliver throughout the year, we will have employers that are looking for apprentices. So all our apprentices will be advertised, and there's a whole scope of different apprenticeships, as I mentioned, out there. It's not just about what IPS offers, but there will be other providers that deliver both the training and advertise the opportunities. Hair and beauty, I know that's a very popular one. Nursing is a level 8 qualification, but there is a pathway, a stepping stone to get through to go into nursing, and it's a great apprenticeship. Retail, public services, the police, firefighter, armed forces, they all have apprentices. So if you're looking even to go in the armed forces, you will automatically be put onto an apprenticeship, and you will gain some skills and training that you possibly couldn't ever afford to purchase or get, like a university loan out for. So that's worth thinking about. Machine operator, animal care, media and publishing, travel and tourism, air steward. These are just an example of the amount of apprenticeships that are out there. But as I mentioned, there are so many, there's hundreds and hundreds to look at, and it's well worth you having a look on the government website and checking them out. Right, if you do have any questions for myself or the team regarding apprenticeship opportunities, I'm more than happy to answer them.
That's brilliant. Thank you for that, Sharon. And I think as we're sort of running close to time, it's probably ideal if you answer those questions in the Q&A Q&A box. I see we have a couple of questions in there. One person asking if you can be an apprentice lawyer, for example, one asking how IPS can help them. So if you wouldn't mind taking a few minutes, Sharon, just
Of course.
to answer those questions in the Q&A chat box. And for the audience, if you do have any questions for Sharon about the work of IPS or about apprenticeships in general or traineeships, then please use the Q&A chat box to ask those, and Sharon will stay on for a few minutes and answer all of those for you. Fabulous. So thank you, Sharon. That was really informative, a great session, and I think particularly interesting to hear about the huge range of apprenticeships that are on offer. As one of these questions highlights, we do often have quite a few questions around kind of apprenticeships are they all kind of related to manual work, and I think it's really nice to kind of explode and explore some of those myths surrounding apprenticeships do today. So on to our next session. For this session we're joined by the first of our employers. So we're joined by Nathan Wood, who's Managing Director of Farmwood Limited, and Nathan joins us to talk through the apprenticeship opportunities available at his organisation. So over to you, Nathan.
Lovely, thank you. Hope you can see my presentation okay and hear me. I'll take that as a yes. Good morning, everybody. Hello and good morning. I'm delighted to be presenting today on what we as a business look for as an apprentice. A few tips for you and a bit about what we do as a company and some points that you probably wouldn't have imagined that we do. But before I get into that, we are huge advocates of apprentices. I was an apprentice myself back in the day at IPS, and without apprenticeships and apprentices coming through to us, it wouldn't enable the growth of our company over the last 20 years. I was an apprentice back at a place called Coast Steel in Sheerness. And it's brilliant that IPS is still going today, all these years on, where we can send our apprentices to go through the same training that I did, that gave me my foundation and the company's foundation to where we are now. So just to drop back a little bit, more than a little bit, when I was at school, I mucked up my GCSEs completely. Didn't do very well at all, much to my parents' disappointment. I should have got good grades and I didn't. I stayed on in sixth form. Back then it was called a GMVQ in engineering, which gave me the equivalent grades that I needed to then progress into an apprenticeship and further the career. So I've gone from apprentice through to various different jobs, to starting at the bottom of a company and working my way through to becoming the director of the company. So it is possible. If I can do it, anyone can do it, honestly. So yeah, let's jump in. Apprentice, an engineer. Picture on the left, nice clean hands, keyboard work. Picture on the right, filthy hands, sort of mechanic looking. So when you're thinking of an engineer, what image springs to your mind initially? Most will imagine the dirty hands on the right, dirty overalls, and a dirty, dusty, noisy environment. Sometimes this couldn't be further from the truth. With new technologies such as the Internet of Things, we're able to engineer solutions without even picking up a screwdriver. It's most likely to be a mobile phone, a laptop. So let's just break these barriers down from the stereotypes of what being an engineer is. Having a career in engineering is fantastic. There's so many transferable skills to enable further development into different sectors. So with my own experience, I went from a steel recycling plant, heavy industry. It was quite a dirty plant, but there was various personal protective equipment that we was given to use to mitigate any impact on us. I went from steel production to food production. So I went from a really dirty environment to a really super clean environment. And the skills that I learnt at the steel plant, albeit a completely different platform, they were completely transferable. And then moving from food produce, I moved into ventilation. And I'm going to go through a little bit more detail about what we do in a second. So there's a lot of assumptions from apprenticeships and apprentices. So I actually asked some of ours what they thought about it and some of their answers. So this is some of their feedback that they gave to us. So you're used as cheap labour. Yes, you are cheap to employ, but you're not just used as cheap labour. We take on apprentices because they are the future of our business, and we need to nurture and develop you as you come through. And as you progress with us and through your training successfully, there are steps that we take into place that ensure that your wage and your package, if you like, improves as you develop and train through with us. You've got to make the drinks. Everybody likes a brew. Feel free if you want to make a drink. It's not something that we push through, but again, these are just genuine points that the guys gave feedback on, whether that be before they started or once they were with us. You're asked to carry the tool bags and equipment. Yeah, our engineers carry the tool bags and equipment when you're not around, so do the technicians. That is part of the job. You've got to carry gear, you've got to get used to carrying equipment around. It is part of the job. Washing the vans. Sometimes, maybe, if they're that dirty and the day's done and you've got not much else to do, feel free. There are car washes that our guys can use also, but yeah, again, this is honest feedback. Being picked up and dropped off back at your home. This is a bugbear of mine. Get your backside out of bed, get out the door, get down to a convenient meeting point. We're not picking you up and dropping you off from your house. You're big people now, you're out in the real world. Get yourselves down to wherever convenient place is and be on time. If anything is important in this role, it's timekeeping. Prepare equipment, thinking ahead. This is something that you will naturally develop as you go through as an apprentice, in regardless whether it's engineering, healthcare, or anything. You need to learn about the processes of a job and preparing equipment and tools for the people that you're working with. Feed the parking meter. This is a bit of an old one now because there's not a lot of parking meters that you can feed. It's all on apps and stuff. So yeah, we'll dismiss that one. Learn technical words, technical vocabulary. Certainly, there'll be a lot of words that we use in our industry and other industries that will be completely alien to you. So, you know, developing your technical ability and your technical vocabulary as well. Expect horseplay, banter, and bullying. There's a very, very fine line between banter, I don't like the word, and bullying. Yes, we all expect people to have a laugh and have fun and enjoy an apprenticeship, but by no means is it ever acceptable for anybody in any workplace to feel intimidated or bullied. The word horseplay, joking around, I wish everybody could come to work and have a laugh, you know, and certainly as an apprentice, being young into the environment and having a more mature team around you, sometimes you just need to keep a handle on things and be understanding that in no circumstances is bullying tolerated in the workplace. Sweep the workshop. Yep, I done it. My workshop was a lot bigger than the workshop we've got here. You may think it is just, you know, it's an arduous task that you're being asked to do as an apprentice. It's not. It's more about learning about good housekeeping. Listen to everyone and everything, 100%. Yeah, I think we come onto some other points about that as well. You're there to just take everything in, whether that be your senses, your smell, your taste, well, not so much your taste, but your smell and your hearing, and listening and taking all of that on board. Stay clean, certainly, yeah, especially in today's world. Hand sanitizers and keeping clean, health and hygiene is vital in any role. Yeah, be a sponge. This is a comment we use a lot. Absorb everything. Try not to get saturated, but yeah, be a sponge. Stay safe, 100%. Get up, go to work, go home at the end of the day. There's huge initiatives around this in the construction industry. It can be quite a dangerous place. Historically, it was even worse. There's been major steps to improve health and safety in the workplace. Make mistakes, 100%. That's why you're an apprentice. I make mistakes daily. It's how you learn from them and make sure that try to make sure that they don't happen again. Look for a job once finished. Yeah, Sharon just touched on this at IPS. Some apprenticeships, so it's worth asking this question, don't guarantee you a job at the end of it. With us, if you're successful at the end of your apprenticeship and all the way through, you are guaranteed a placement with us. Ask silly questions. There is never a silly question in my mind. More than happy to take those on. And I think the next one, yeah, keep asking the same question. If you don't get the answer that you understand, keep asking the question again. Understand your environment. Yeah, so if you're working with the engineers and you're traveling back in the van and you're discussing things, whatever that might be, that's one environment that you can discuss it with. When you come back to the office, it's a different environment. There's a lot more ladies that work in our office. So you need to be aware of the environment that you're in and the way that you conduct yourselves in these different environments. And the last one, probably the most important, teamwork, having a team ethic. I think the old saying, there's no I in team, and there's a reply to that, but we won't go into that. So yeah, teamwork is vital. So standard requirements, as you look for an apprenticeship, you'll come across a very standardized format of requirements, such as candidates should demonstrate a good value of professionalism while giving the interview. This might be the first interview that you ever do. You know, you might be extremely nervous. How do I act professional in an interview? The team here are probably more than happy to go through guidance and give you viewpoints on what to do, the do's, the don'ts. Check out on YouTube, you know, have a look around, speak to your parents. You know, they've been through this as well. Speak to any friends and family that might be slightly older than you that have already gone through the process. A candidate should be enthusiastic and willing to learn new skills. Obviously, you're going for an apprenticeship, you're looking to skill yourself. Showing enthusiasm in an interview is quite daunting, regardless of your age. Once you're sat down in front of people, even the most confident people, your enthusiasm and your willingness to impress can just be zapped out of you. So just take your time, think about the processes that you're going through. And then they should have a positive attitude towards work and ready to take up challenges. Yeah, 100%. Positive mindset. Yeah, I'm willing to do this. Yes, I'm willing to do that. The new challenge is all ahead of you, is in this full apprenticeship. So a few more tips on the big day, and a little few nuggets of wisdom, if you like, from what I've been through and what the team tell me as well. So be early. Don't be on time. Be early. Be in the car park. Know where the building is. You know, do your research before. Maybe do a dry run out to the place. Make sure you know where it is, regardless of your mode of transport. Be early. Be polite, personable. You know, you never know who's going to answer the door to you. It might be the managing director, it might be the receptionist, it might be one of the engineers. Be polite, be personable. This one I quite like. Dress well, but not to impress. You can go suited and booted, that's fine. But as long as you're smart, you know, it wouldn't bother me if somebody turned up to an interview with us in jeans. For some other companies, that's a bit of a no-no. As long as you're smart, clean, presentable, that's fine. You know, power suits, big tie, you know, folder under your arm. For us as a company, that's not the driver behind it. We want to know about you. So it's about maybe show your personality a little bit in the way that you dress, bring your style into it as well. Yeah, be a scout, be prepared, do your research on the company, check out their website, you know, look them up on social media, do a little bit of digging into the company that will enable you to ask questions that would lead to more conversation during the interview process. Yeah, have questions ready, 100%. The chances are the person or the team interviewing you say, have you got any questions? Have them scribbled down on a bit of paper, you know, ready, prepared for you. If you've got a good memory, think about it. I'd recommend writing them down because you don't know how you're going to react on the day. Think before you speak. I can take notes of this sometimes myself. Just take a pause. If they ask you a question, take a pause. Don't just say the first thing that comes out of your mouth. Just take a moment. When you're leaving, this is probably just me, maybe other companies, I don't know. When you stand up, push your chair back underneath the table and say thank you. Eye contact, thank you very much for your time. Simple things like that sometimes, especially from our experience with younger people that come through for interviews, eye contact isn't very good. The basics of hello, good morning, and thank you for your time, you know, that sort of thing can go a long way. It's what reminds us of certain people when we're processing later on. So what is ventilation? We are a ventilation company. So there's a few points. Ventilation refers to the process in which outdoor air is intentionally supplied to a space and stale air is removed. So we move air in buildings. We put air into buildings, we take air back out of buildings. That is a process of ventilation. There's lots of different types. You're probably used to air conditioning. We do that as well. It's a different type of ventilation. We also do big air handling plants, which I'll show you a picture of in a minute, through to your standard extract fans, air curtains, recirculation systems. But I think the best way to explain what we do is if any of you ever pop into a Nando's or you've been in a Nando's and you look up, it's all that exposed ductwork, the machinery and the equipment. That's what we do. Other fast food chains are available. So what do we do? We design systems. Design is a key point of our commitment to delivering a specification or a standard to our clients. We repair systems, bread and butter work that we do, so we can go out to different manufacturers' equipment. We need to learn and read manuals to understand the processes of what we're looking to repair. We can maintain them, cleaning filters. Systems generally fail quicker if they're not maintained and looked after, so that's another core part of our business. We do the installations, like I mentioned at the place. If you look up in the ceiling, we'd carry out installations of systems. So we work at heights. In the summer, we're generally working in basements, and in the winter, we're generally working on roofs. So yeah, there's lots of different places that we carry out installation works all across the country. And we commission them. It's really important that if you do a design, it needs to be commissioned and signed off at the end. So then you're proving that the works and the design and the installation and the maintenance that you've done actually works. So HVAC is a word that we use a lot, which stands for heat, vent and air conditioning. So that's us. So HVAC engineers are the physicians of buildings going forward. You may have seen during the pandemic and the COVID-19, and the ventilation was hailed excuse me, as a major solution to mitigating the spread of COVID-19 indoors. You know, you may have the image there in purple showing COVID going out the window. That was an NHS video, an advertisement that was put out there a lot, explaining to people that by opening up your window, it allows natural ventilation to come in and dilute the virus from the area. So suddenly, a business that wasn't very much discussed, thought about, was thrust into the limelight. So for us, it was fantastic. There's a lot more to it than that. When I showed you the earlier pictures of the nice clean hands and the dirty hands, computer fluid dynamics is a mixture of those both. So you need to understand the characteristics of a building, the airflows, the people within it, the space, the size of the windows, the use, the function, the ventilation systems. Everything comes into place. Although we're just a ventilation company, we take into account so many characteristics of a building and the occupants and how things operate. So there's a lot more to the nuts and bolts of our industry, but there's a lot of theory involved, and computer fluid dynamics is going to lead our business going forward. I've touched on design. So on the left is a schematic drawing that I understand, our engineers will understand, and as you develop with us in your apprenticeship, you'll gain insight and knowledge into these systems that would then end up looking like the unit on the right hand side, which is a big air handling unit. That unit's probably 10 foot tall, 6 foot deep, and about 20 foot long. So from the design of schematics and energy efficient systems, heat pumps, EC drive fans, heat exchangers, we need our teams to be competent to understand technical drawings and relate them through to specification and installation of large air handling plant. Some can be bigger than a double-decker bus, and we carry out some quite bespoke works whereby we sort of reverse IKEA things. So they come to us as a big unit. We strip them down into flat pack form, take them through to a site, normally in and around London, transport them through to the final place and rebuild them. It's pretty cool work. So it's proper hands-on reverse engineering and re-engineering to a very, very high standard. The big driver for our industry and a lot of other industries is a publicly available standard, PAS 2035. So it's retrofitting our existing buildings, and making them more energy efficient. So you probably noticed in the news, the protesters supergluing themselves to the roads, insulate Britain. Part of that protest is that we need to retrofit our buildings anyway. There's something like 82% of our existing housing stock and buildings in the UK will be still in use in 2050. So it's vital that engineers like us and other industries are able to take the publicly available standard and enable it to happen. So we're designing to improve the health and well-being of people to come, saving energy and the existing housing stock. So this is about insulating a building to make them thermally efficient, but also ventilating them. So from the basics of reducing mold growth and condensation in a building, through to ensuring that there aren't heat losses within that space as well. So it's a real balance between the different trades all coming into this standard, and this is what we need to take notice of. Another big driver for our industry is indoor air quality. We've got a real passion for it here at Farmwood, and ventilation in buildings is enabling us to have healthier indoor spaces. So the issue's been known about for many, many years, and the pandemic has thrust it into the limelight. We've been developing systems and HVAC integration for about 7 years, way back before it was cool and everybody was talking with it. We work with major players across the globe, from Kickstarters to billion-pound groups of companies. We cover indoor air quality monitoring, so you would learn about particulate matter, micrograms and meters cubed, the threshold levels, what's safe, what's dangerous, what's adequate. We look at thermal dynamics. We look at photons, light spectrums, colony morphology, which is analysing the microbial content in the air. We also do air sampling and hygiene. So there's so much to indoor air quality It's a really exciting time, and ventilation is a huge part of that. And this is all just a ventilation engineer. As we say, the skills are massively transferable, and the possibilities, once you get your trade and your foundation knowledge, to take those into other sectors, to other companies, and develop yourself further. I mean, we hopefully stay with us. You know, that's the goal. Stay with us and we develop and we grow as a company. Work your way up the ladder. That's what we're all about. But being an engineer will enable you to travel, see the world. As Sharon said previously, the globe is screaming out for engineers. And if you're looking for a trade that will pay off your mortgage and give you a very, very good standard of life, engineering is it. We're a ventilation company. There's many other sectors out there that will enable your learner journey to progress. So that's it. I didn't time that. Hopefully that's okay. Thank you very much for your time, and I'll be happy to answer any questions if we have time, or we can drop back into the Q&A.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much, Nathan. Really engaging presentation. I was gripped by it, actually, possibly considering a career change. Am I too old? I'm sure not.
Not at all.
That was great, Nathan. Thank you. And I know we do have a lot of questions for you in the Q&A. So if you wouldn't mind just taking some time now to answer those. Yeah, lots of interest there. And I think a really nice and important point you made earlier in the presentation about considering whether an apprenticeship leads to a job at the end, which, you know, may be an important consideration for some people. And yeah, just an important point, I think, to recognise that, you know, really look at the employer's offer. There are some fantastic apprenticeships out there. And if you need any support with that, you know, there are organisations that are there to help you, IPS or the National Careers Service, and we've popped those details in the Q&A chat for you. So please get in touch if you want any support with that. Brilliant. Well, next up we welcome James Forster from Knauf, another of our employer speakers. And James is going to talk to you all about the manufacturing sector, the apprenticeships and the roles on offer at Knauf, and what their recruitment process looks like. So over to you, James.
Hi everybody, nice to meet you. I'm here today to talk about Knauf, UK and Ireland. We're based in Sittingbourne in Kent. I'm the talent partner for the UK and Ireland, so my responsibility for the business is to recruit for our business. So I'm here today really just to talk about who we are as a business, our journey with apprentices over the years, and what we are looking to offer in 2022 as well. So what we're looking to, if I can just skip on, we're going to be covering a bit about us as a business, how our process, how plasterboard is made, that's our chief product, our vacancies for this year, looking back on the class of 2021 and discussing our program of apprenticeships, what we look for and our expectations, the next steps and our recruitment process, and finally our company values, which we as a business hold close to us. So without any further ado, who are we and what do we do as a business? Knauf UK and Ireland is part of the Knauf group. A lot of people mispronounce our company and say it's Knauf or Knauf. It's actually a hard K. But we're part of the one of the leading building materials manufacturers in the world. We are commonly known for the manufacture of our plasterboard and drywall systems. Knauf as a business actually employs in excess of 35,000 employees worldwide. And we actually produce a huge amount of plasterboard across the 85 countries that we are based in. We are the world's largest producer of gypsum-based products. The UK plasterboard business was founded in 1988, but the Knauf Group globally was started in 1932 when Carl and Alphonse Knauf started mining gypsum deposit. That's our raw material in Germany. So in 1988, the first UK plasterboard plant was constructed in Sittingbourne. It was a greenfield site to start with, and it became a working factory in less than 12 months. We actually have a number of individuals still working within the business who joined the company in 1988 to help create the plant. It's a state-of-the-art facility. Engineers within the who come to site, and contractors that come to site as well. It's an engineer's dream to work at Knauf in terms of some of the kit they have on site, and some of the range of materials and machinery they can get involved in is a sight to behold. We also introduced our very own UK powder plant in 1993, which produces a range of products, including all the adhesive that's required to successfully install plasterboard and drywall from there. Considering the growth and the success of the first UK plant within Knauf, we decided to open up our second operation, and that's located on the River Humber, which is just outside of Grimsby. It's for about 4.5 hours away from where we are here in Kent. It's actually slightly larger than our Sittingbourne plant at Immingham, and the line speeds, which is the speed in which we can actually physically create plasterboard, is marginally quicker than the Sittingbourne plant too. So in 2006, we had a huge investment program in our Immingham plant, which again increased its capacity, and we also installed two large heat exchangers, which added 10% to our savings in terms of energy requirements too. We also have a showroom based in the heart of the architectural and design community in London, an area of London called Clerkenwell, where 80% of the UK's architects are actually based. So we created a bespoke showroom that allowed our customers and architects, main contractors, individuals that use Knauf product to walk in off the street and discuss Knauf's systems with customers from there. So it's a state-of-the-art showroom. And I'm glad to say one of the positions that we have got in terms of the vacancies, a digital marketing apprentice would spend a great deal of their time at the showroom in London as well. Okay, so plasterboard itself it can be quite complex to manufacture. It is essentially a 24/7 manufacturing process that we have in place. Our plants at Sittingbourne and Immingham don't shut down. The only day that they do shut down is Christmas Day and Boxing Day. Essentially, how you make plasterboard is with a raw material called gypsum. A gypsum slurry is made up from an element called stucco or plaster of Paris, water, and other materials. In a continuous mixer. This slurry spreads in a stream from multiple hoses onto a moving sheet of paper. The product is essentially heated up with two bits of paper, a bit like a sandwich, and then is put into a series of ovens to essentially set the plasterboard. At the end of it, that's how you essentially make plasterboard. As mentioned, it travels along the line of the production line on a series of setting belts, sections of rollers to a machine called the shear. The plaster then has time to set, harden, and the required product information in terms of BSI standards, the date and time whether it's manufactured, where it's going to the customer, is also then printed onto the plasterboard from there. So that's a very kind of whirlwind and whistle-stop tour about who we are and what we do and what our main product range is, just because I'm conscious of time. So I wanted to discuss what vacancies we actually have as a business in coming up this year. So we have 4 vacancies that we'll be recruiting for shortly. We've actually already hired 5 apprentices to start in September, so we've gone very early in terms of our recruitment. That's across multiple sites, but we still have 4 vacancies left remaining, and they'll be advertised shortly. First up is a digital marketing apprentice that will be based out of our head office in Sittingbourne. I'll come on to that in a bit more depth shortly. Also looking for a brand new apprentice that we've never had before in the business. Knauf really values health, safety and the environment. Health and safety is on the top of every agenda that we have in every meeting and every business communication. So I'm glad to say we have our very first health and safety and environmental apprentice joining us this year as well. That's a really exciting opportunity that will see the individual based out of our Sittingbourne factory, but with travel up to our Immingham facility as well. We'll also be looking for what's known as a calcination apprentice. I will come on to that in a bit more depth shortly, but essentially that's a production apprentice to work in our calcination factory. I will also be looking for a design and build technician. So for those of you who are more interested in looking at design and build construction and the processes around that, that will be a great apprenticeship to look into for a September start. And that too would be based at our head office in Sittingbourne. So we can recap as to what we are looking for this year. So the digital marketing apprentice will be based at our head office here at Sittingbourne, with travel up to Clerkenwell in London on occasion. And it will be looking at the digital marketer level 3 apprenticeship standard. And I'm pleased to say that we'll be utilising IPS as our partner and provider of this apprenticeship standard for us. But essentially the primary role of a digital marketer is to define, design, build and implement digital campaigns across a variety of online and social media platforms to drive customer acquisition, engagement and retention. The qualification will be suited to the following positions: a digital marketing assistant, an exec, perhaps a coordinator, a campaign exec, social media exec, and content creation as well. So for all of those of you who are interested in a career within digital marketing, we would welcome an application when the advertising goes live over the next few weeks. As mentioned, we will be looking for a health and safety and environmental technician to be based out of Sittingbourne, but also to cover our secondary plant in Immingham. This is a brand new standard that we'll be looking to explore. So it's their safety, health and environment technician level 3. The role will essentially help to steer and shape health and safety for our manufacturing plants and our offices. So it'll be working closely with our HSE advisor, so health, safety and environmental advisor, in ensuring that Knauf is a safe and compliant place to work. So it's a really exciting opportunity for those of you who are interested in a career in health and safety, with touch points for the environment as well. We'll also be looking for a calcination apprentice. So again, this is a brand new standard for us, in which we'll be utilising the lean manufacturing operative level 2. Again, this is new to us, and again, I'm pleased to say that we'll be partnering with IPS in terms of the recruitment campaign and the delivery of this standard. But the calcination apprentice would join our calcination plant, which is a huge kettle plant that basically cooks our raw material before it then is made into stucco, which is the chief component of the plasterboard. It's a very technical process to understand and learn. It takes a number of years to fine tune that manufacturing process. We have a workforce who have been with the business for an awfully long time, and we're looking to pass down that knowledge and experience to the future generations. So we're really excited to be able to offer this standard out to future apprentices. And then finally, as referenced, we're looking for a technical support trainee to undertake a level 4 standard in the design and build technician, and this will be provided by Mid Kent College. and advertised accordingly shortly as well. So the design and build technician standard is predominantly grounded within the construction industry. So we as a manufacturer of building materials, we supply into the construction industry. We have a very large technical team that hold the hands of customers in the best use and the best installation methods of our products. So that could be architects, main contractors, specifiers, right down to subcontractors, installers, and the end user. The technical support trainee would work in our technical support office, fielding inquiries from customers on live chat, via phone, via email about Knauf products. So that could be acoustic properties, that could be fire rating properties, that could be even how to use the products in your own homes if you're doing any construction work. So let's look back at some success stories here at Knauf. We are very proud of our apprenticeship program. The apprenticeship program here at Knauf has been going for a number of years, and with this intake of apprentices this year, we would have around 17 to 18 or so apprentices within the business across all areas, which we are very, very proud of. And again, we've got a great success of offering permanent long-term vacancies to our staff after their apprenticeship has ended. So in 2021, we actually diversified our apprenticeship for the very first time, and we introduced office-based apprentices. So we took on our own very own finance apprentice for the first time, so Kate. Kate is currently at Mid-Kent College on a 2-year program. She's done fantastically since joining us. Sarah Olasola, who joined my own team here in HR, again on a 2-year program, and she is currently doing her HR support apprenticeship, studying for her CIPD level 3, and again that's day released to Mid-Kent College as well. Sittingbourne Engineering, we took on 2 engineers this year in our plant here. So Archie and Dan. I know IPS spoke earlier on, but Archie and Dan are both in their first year at IPS, undertaking multi-skilled engineer apprenticeships with the MOA standards, so maintenance and engineering operations level 3. And finally, we took on again 2 apprentices up at our Immingham factory. One in the engineering team, so Jacob, he's focusing purely on mechanical engineering in our factory, and again for the first time we offered a brand new standard, the warehouse and supply chain apprenticeship for the supply chain practitioner level 3. So Taylor joined our Immingham warehouse last year as well. Again, we're very proud of our program here at Knauf. So the feedback that we get, I won't regurgitate what's on the screen, but the feedback we get from all of our apprenticeships is really positive. The positive experience that our apprentices really our apprentices really enjoy is great feedback, great communication. They always feel very supported, and it's a program that we're looking to continue this year as well. A couple of case studies. Again, I'm conscious of time, but Madison Steele is one of our high-flying apprentices. She joined the business in 2018. She's now a 4th year apprentice in our factory at Immingham. Obviously, Maddie has been part of many kind of forums and programs up at Immingham to discuss the benefits of apprenticeships and why it's a great way to join a business in terms of the earn while you learn and that growth mindset. So she's a great advocate of apprentices and a great success story here at Knauf. And equally, a chap by the name of Sam Huddleston. So Sam is one of our high flyers and one of our previous apprentices. So he's progressed through the ranks at our Immingham factory as well, and he's now one of our electrical maintenance team leaders. So he's got a team of 8 individuals that report into him, and again, he's a former Knauf apprentice too. So what we look for here at Knauf, and our expectations, just so we can set the scene in terms of what a successful recruitment or application process would look like for you. I think the key attributes that we look for, particularly in a recruitment exercise, is strong communication skills, evidenced by applicants. We want individuals who interview confidently, who can hold conversation well, who can make eye contact, who can think about their answers before they speak. We're also looking for someone who's got a growth mindset, someone who doesn't say no, always has that yes mindset as to how we can achieve our goals here at Knauf, or how they can help in other areas of the business, and the willingness to assist other members of the team without being prompted is a real strong key attribute that we look for here at Knauf. We are looking for somebody who's independent, strong-willed, and determined as well. We want individuals who take their own responsibilities for their study and their apprenticeship program and their learning whilst at Knauf. I think it's really important that we can only hold somebody's hand so far and so much without somebody using that independence to actually want to grow, develop, and progress within the business. And this goes without saying, but we always look for somebody who's always willing to go above and beyond, go the extra mile, and that willingness to give 100%, 110% in every output is what we look for, particularly in the recruitment program or the recruitment exercise that we do undertake here. Okay, so if you're interested in applying for a position here at Knauf, our advertisements will be going out shortly over the next 1 to 2 weeks across the 4 vacancies that we have. This will be on the main government apprenticeship website. So if you are interested, please do keep an eye out for the Knauf logo, which will be accompanying the advertisements themselves. The advertising partners, so the likes of IPS, Mid-Kent College, will then forward your CV and any other supporting material across to myself and Sarah on a solo, the HR support apprentice, who will be helping me to recruit the apprentices this year for us to review. We will then go through the applications. We will then more than likely pick up the phone to all applicants as well to get a bit more of a feel of who we want to bring in for an interview. And then we'll go through to the face-to-face interview as well, which would include a presentation. That is part of our process. We expect a presentation from all apprentices interviewing in the business, as well as a site tour as well, to make sure that everybody is comfortable before we progress. Finally, I just wanted to make reference to our values, and if your values are aligned to our values, then we want to hear from you. We hold our values really close to our heart here. So I just want to give a brief overview as to what they are, and if you can evidence these values in an application or an interview process, then it should be a good fit. So the first one is a German word. It's actually Menschlichkeit. Being a German-owned business, Menschlichkeit essentially translates as humanity in English. Everybody at Knauf, we expect all of our colleagues to treat each other like human beings. We're all business partners, and we're a large family here at Knauf, and that's that real family ethos that lives and breathes our values here in the business. Partnership, so we act as one team. We work in partnership by creating an environment of mutual trust. Commitment, so we are committed to our work, our colleagues, and our community. So it's really important that we all go above and beyond and go the extra mile to strive towards achieving good business results and making sure that the workplace is safe, accommodating, and welcoming. And then finally, entrepreneurship. as well. So we're looking for creatives, we're looking for people with ideas, we're looking for individuals who can make an impact in the UK market within a global but family owned business from there. So that's enough from me. I think again I'm slightly over, so I do apologise for that. But please, if you do have any questions at all, then by all means pop them into the Q&A, and I'll hang around for another 10-15 minutes or so just to ask any questions. But yeah, fingers crossed, and we hopefully see some applications coming through over the next few weeks.
That's brilliant. Thank you so much for that, James. Some really diverse, I think, and exciting apprenticeship roles available at Knauf, and perhaps surprising for some people, actually, that kind of the digital marketing apprenticeship, for example, springs to mind. And I know someone's asked a question about that in the Q&A. So thank you. We really appreciate you staying on and answering those questions. And if anyone in the audience has a question that they'd like to ask James that they haven't already asked, then please do that. And James will hang around for 10-15 minutes and answer those for you.
Thanks, Julie.
Brilliant. And as James mentioned as well, keep an eye on the IPS and the main apprenticeships website for those vacancies. And we'll pop the links for those into the chat, because I know some of you have asked about those. So that's fab. Thank you very much, James. And now on to our next session, where we welcome Chris, Stuart, and later on Josh, who will be talking about the apprenticeship opportunities available at DS Smith. So over to you, Chris and Stuart.
Good morning. Morning all. Just a few introductions first. I'm Chris Lord. I'm the Site Mechanical Engineering Manager. With us today we've got Stuart Ruck, who's the Operations Excellence Director, and also we've got Josh Killick, who's a current engineering apprentice in his final year. So first, a bit about the business, which Stuart's going to go through.
Yeah, so as the previous people who presented, I just want to give you a bit of an overview of the apprenticeships. So a bit of a link there between Knauf and towards Kemsley there, talking around paper, so we're staying on the paper theme. So I think, as everybody said, Kemsley is a huge advocate of apprentices. Just to give you an oversight, we're going to lose 30% of our workforce in the next 5 years due to natural wastage and retirement. So we do have a bit of a challenge around getting young apprentices into the business. So we started this journey probably 5 to 6 years ago, taking on 5 operations apprentices and 5 engineering. But we're getting to the point now, from this year onwards for the next probably 3 or 4 years, we're going to have to take about 3% of our FTEs, up to 15 to 20 apprentices, just to balance the books around the FTE count and the natural wastage. We have got some really good success stories around apprenticeships. I'll let Josh and Chris talk about the engineering successes, but operations-wise, in 5 years we've got 4 in junior management roles and 1 in a senior management role. So it shows that there is progression and there's, the good achievers will fly through this business. From that, I think training, apprenticeship is key to the business, to the point where this paper mill has been here 100 years. And now, from the start of this year, we've now hired a training development manager. We know as a business now that training development is key to our succession and to create future leaders for the business. And from this as well, on the operations side of it, we're now actively engaged with the Confederation of Paper Industry. We're trying to style the next apprenticeship around operations so it aligns with our business model. So that shows at Kemsley really where we are and where we want to go with the apprentice scheme. So, overview, what are we? So, DS Smith, probably a lot of people haven't heard of us. You may have seen the lorries on the motorway, but we are leading providers of consumer packaging, and we do state-of-the-art packaging design. We are the largest cardboard paper recycler in Europe, and we're managing 5 million tonnes of materials annually, and also the leading manufacturer. So, where are we? So, again, we are a FTSE 100 company. We have 32,000 employees across 250 sites in 37 countries. So again, if you haven't heard about DS Smith, we are a global company with a large FTE of 32,000. We help our customers with sustainable packaging and solution needs, and we design from production to supply to recycling. And what we say is we do that in a 14-day window. So when the box comes to you from Amazon and then comes back to us, we remake the paper, rebox it, repack it, and get it back out to supplier in our 14-day window. Again, just a brief overview. I think I've already touched on it. We've got 13 European paper mills, 2 mills in America, and we are global. You know, we employ 3,500 people across the paper division, and we make 4 million tonnes of paper per year. And as I said before, we do all this within a circa 14-day window to close the loop. Our approach, innovation is key. Sustainability is massive for our business model. That's the biggest driver. Developing the right strategies and think differently. We're always thinking outside the box, excuse the pun, but we need to keep up with the market leaders around what the next steps are in the industry. So that's a little bit about DS Smith. So touching on Kemsley Mill, again, the theme there from the Knauf, we're based in Sittingbourne. So there's just an overview of the site, as we say, which has grown massively in the last 2 or 3 years. So, a bit of history. So as I said, it's been in nearly 100 years, this business, so it's a sustainable business. Produced newsprint from 1923, and then in 1923 it was actually called one of the 6 wonders of the earth, the first paper machine that was ever of the world, sorry, first paper machine that was ever built. What do we make? We make 830,000 tonnes of paper a year, and we take in a million tonnes of recycled cardboard yearly. What have we got? We've got 3 assets or 3 paper machines. We've got PM3, PM4, PM6, which are Fordrinia, triple wire, and a Fordrinia. And as I said before, we make 830,000 tonnes as a business at Kemsley. Process capabilities. Now, I touched on the size. We're 150 acres, which is a huge site. 3 paper machines, total capacity 830,000. As I said, we're the second biggest in Europe and the biggest in UK. 440 employees. We can store 15,000 tonnes of waste paper and 35,000 tonnes of finished products, and also have a state-of-the-art AD plant. That's where I talked about the innovation and what we can do next steps to support the P&L at Kemsley and also support the sustainability target.
Right, just to put the size of Kemsley into a bit of context, I don't know how many of you have been, the closest city to us is Canterbury. And if you look at Canterbury City Walled area, it's 120 acres. So with the 150 acres of the Kemsley site, or 100 football pitches, you can fit the walled city of Canterbury into the grounds of Kemsley site. That is how big a site. So if you ever go around Canterbury and walk around the area, you've got an idea of how much you're walking around at Kemsley.
So moving on to our products, what do we make? I won't go into the detail, but we make dual use white liners, medium HP pluses and light mediums. But the key for me is to understand the size of this. In 3 hours, one of our paper machines can fill 20% of the O2 in 3 hours in just paper. So it shows the amount of paper we make daily, weekly and yearly. So a lot of people say to me, again, as I start the presentation, who is DS Smith and what did DS Smith do? So the phrase I use is, I can guarantee that you don't know what, some of you don't know what DS Smith is, but you have touched it and felt it and it's come through your life. I think for the younger people on the conference, Nando's, KFC, McDonald's, Primark, Domino's, Just Eat, all the bags are supplied by DS Smith. We're the sole supplier. It just shows that we make over 400 million bags a year. So again, you're not sure what DS Smith is, but it's in your life daily, weekly. And then it's just a brief overview of our process that we touched on. We've got 3 machines. So we've got a triple ply with 3 machine, which is PM3, which is the most advanced paper machine in the world. Very complex fibre streams, making multiple fibre sources, including world-class de-inking plant. PM4 is a Fordrinia machine that makes a high-strength semi-chemical fluting for the challenging applications. And as we say on challenging applications, it's all around the burst. So when the Amazon driver throws the box at your door or something like that, we don't want the box to burst open. So that's the kind of challenges that we have to overcome as a business to make sure we have the strength and the critical quality of the paper. And then last and last is PM6. So we talk about sustainability. So this is our lightweight machine. We've gone to a grammage of 85 gram, which supplies predominantly #1 for Amazon. I think we all know who Amazon are. Runs at a speed of 1100 meters per minute. Now, a lot of you won't understand what 1100 meters per minute is. That's about 41 miles per hour. It can make up to 1150 tons of paper in 24 hours. So I'll hand you over to Chris now to take you briefly through Kemsley Engineering.
Right, so Stuart has mentioned the paper machines there, and it's running at 41 miles an hour, 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. Oh, wait, it's off for 3 days at Christmas. But on every single process that goes through to make the paper, every single production process, there's some kind of engineering behind it, whether it be a valve, motor, DCS control, feedback loop. There's always something there to do with engineering. And if we look at the chemical engineering in numbers, we've got 4,000 motors on site, which go from about 0.5 kilowatt to 1.5 megawatts. And again, a bit of perspective on that. The lowest setting on a hairdryer is probably about 0.86 kilowatts. So that's actually, the motors we have on site are smaller than a hairdryer. And you look at 1.5 megawatt, there's a Formula E car is limited to 250 kilowatts. So we're looking at 6 Formula E cars equivalent to one of our biggest motors. There's 1,500 variable speed drives. That means drives that aren't just set at a constant speed, they vary to match the process, and they need to be controlled to match the process. So they're controlled either by a pressure, by a speed, by a flow, various controls. There's over 10,000 field instrument devices, so measuring this temperature, pressure, flow, vibration. Vibration is a big key new measurement, which is helping in the reliability of our machines. We've got 100 types of processors using different companies from ABB, Allen Bradley and Siemens, which are process controllers. We've got about 3,000 pumps on site, from 1 litre a minute to 100,000 litres a minute. And again, to just a bit of comparison there, an Olympic-sized swimming pool, which is about 50 metres long, holds about 2.5 million litres. And the biggest pump that we've got can fill that in 25 minutes, which I think 25 minutes, that might sound a bit of a long time, but if you want to compare that with a fire engine pump, that can pump about 2,500 litres, so it'd take nearly 17 hours. So if you wanted to go in your Olympic-sized swimming pool at 5 o'clock at night, you'd have to start your fire engines at midnight the night before. Whereas with our DS Smith pump, we could turn it on at 4:30 and we'll be ready to be swimming at 5 o'clock. We've got about 2,000 gearboxes on site. Again, all various different sizes and uses, from roll mounted to inline to 90 degree. We've got lots of them. We've got about 1,000 rolls on site, from the 5 kilograms rolls which are on the conveyors to help carry the paper, the finished goods along, to 70-ton press rolls which help dry the paper, reduce the moisture, take it through to the next process. There's suction rolls, there's deflection compensated rolls. You wouldn't think that a roll at 70 ton can bend and flex and be adjusted, but it can. I've also got a workforce of about 80 engineers working in different parts of the engineering, from projects to maintenance to lubrication to reliability to mechanical, electrical, instrumentation, automation, planning, area engineers. We've got a vast range of careers that you can go through in engineering. So, engineering at Kemsley again. Now, from Wikipedia, engineers, the long explanation is practitioners of engineering are professionals who invent, design, analyse, build and test machines, complex systems, structures, gadgets and materials to fulfil functional objectives and requirements while considering the limitations imposed by practicality, regulation, safety and cost. And from the Collins English Dictionary, an engineer is a person who uses scientific knowledge to design, construct and maintain engines and machines or structures, such as roads, railways and bridges. Well, some of that's true for what we do here, but we don't have many railways or bridges or roads on site, but we do have complex systems. We do a lot of analysis. We do test machines. We do fulfill functional objectives and requirements. And we've always got practicality, regulation, safety and cost at the front of our minds when we're maintaining our machines or structures. So basically, we continuously maintain, improve and develop 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. on to the apprenticeship. What did DS Smith want from an apprentice? Well, you need to have an interest. You want an interest in engineering, on how things work, on how things are made, mechanically, electrically, automated, however it goes. If you like watching how things work, or you things like that, then yeah, you've got an interest in engineering. You've got to have a willingness to learn and prepared to develop. And the development doesn't end when you've done your apprenticeship. You've got to have a tenacious approach. Not everything goes right. I think Josh will be able to tell you that. Not everything goes right first time. And we've got a commitment to complete practical and educational coursework. That is part of your apprenticeship to start with, and then after that, there's also further learnings. Have a good work ethic. Get on with people who you work with. Understand that we're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week operation. So sometimes it goes past 4:30 and into the weekend, but you have to understand that. Be an open-minded, logical thinker. And I think as engineers and process people, you've got that inbred, and you naturally go into the engineering and process role because you are open-minded and because you are logical thinkers. And our apprenticeship opportunities, yeah, we don't stop learning when we've had an apprenticeship. When you finish your apprenticeship, there's mechanical, E&I, automation, reliability, process, various strands you can go into. And in each of those areas, we've got specialist area training with each of the machines. We've got the roll workshop, we've got E&I, RCF, effluent treatment plant, automation, stock preparation. We've got specialist machinery training. We've got tail threaders, which Josh will be able to tell you about. We've got rolls, we've got multiple pumps and screens and belt cleaning equipment, mechanical seals fitted onto pumps, pulpers, vacuum systems, valves, controllers, specialist equipment training. We've got the ABB and the Siemens drives, we've got the DCS systems. We have specialists come in and do training. We have variable speed drives, we've got vacuum blowers, we've got multiple controllers, as I've said before. There's a massive amount of specialist equipment training. Specialist tooling. We have laser alignment, specialist lifting equipment. We've got DCS, QCS development. We've got a complete model of the DCS and QCS system that runs the paper machines, controls the paper machines. We've got a complete setup that we can use for training. It's just a sand pit, a play pit, if you want to call it that, what could actually run the machine. We have the DS Smith way, which is lean techniques. And in that, we're using we're training in modern manufacturing techniques. We've got the 5S, we've got asset management, root cause analysis, standard work, autonomous maintenance, Kaizen, process confirmation, multiple training and techniques we're going to use for the future. So life as an apprentice. We'll let Josh tell you a bit more about life as an apprentice, but he did work experience at Kemsley before he started in September 18. He's due to complete his apprenticeship in September this year. He's completed his BTEC National and is currently studying his higher BTEC qualification. Over to you, Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I just really want to echo really what Chris and Stuart said, really. Yes, I started in 2018. Before that, like Chris said, I'd done some work experience with my school, and I know some people who worked at the mill, and I thought, I'll give it a go. Can't be that bad. And yeah, loved it. And then finished my qualifications at school, done my A-levels. So I know some people might not do the A-levels first. I chose to do my A-levels in sort of maths, physics, and business. That gave me sort of a good grounding for my college work. But I do know people who didn't do that route and sort of jumped straight into it, into apprenticeships after GCSEs, and then they're in the same position as I am now. So I don't think one way is better than the other. They're doing the same course as me. As I say, there's not it's not limited to what you're doing as an apprentice. You're not just coming out with a BTEC or an HNC or an MVQ. You get other qualifications too. You know, we get training like Chris touched on earlier. You know, laser alignments, forklifts training, all these different vibration analysis trainings, reliability, and that really broadens your scope out into other areas. You know, you might start as an engineering apprentice, but you might end up delving into sort of operational excellence like Stuart, or you might get into reliability. So just because you enter as one apprentice doesn't mean you're sort of, that's it. You're not there for the rest of your life. You're not going to be an engineer forever. If you want to, then great. I know some of the best engineers we've got on site started as an apprentice, and here sort of 35, 40 years later, and they're the best. You know, they've got all the experience and all that. So if you want to go down that route, then that's great. But it does lead you to diversifying into other sectors within the business. My granddad, he done an engineering apprenticeship with the paper mill. It wasn't DS Smith back then, but it's on the same site. And he done his 4 or 5 year apprenticeship, done a bit of engineering for a bit after that, and then diversified into HR. So, as I say, you're not set for your life, but it's a really good grounding. And in terms of as an engineer, I think it's broadly accepted as a very well educated sector. So I think people look at engineering apprentices and people who are qualified with engineering degrees and other qualifications. They see that as quite a mark of an achievement. So it does sort of set you up for your future. Going on from what I'm doing now, really. So I'm at college today, so I'll go 1 day a week for college now, and I'm nearly finished my HNC, which is like a higher level qualification, which is equivalent to like the first year of university. Some universities do acknowledge this as like a first year. So if you wanted to progress further, sort of self-funded or looking at employer-funded further education, then this can be a stepping stone, sort of to count as your first year of uni. So it shortens down the uni course later on. So as I say, you can still keep getting better qualifications and better yourself and progress through the company. As I say, I can't fault my apprenticeship at DS Smith. You get great support from your management team, and exposure that you get in terms of working on all different types of plant machinery it's really eye-opening. When I first started, I thought it's only paper, it can't be that hard to make. And then I look into it now, I'm like, there's so much involvement that you don't realise that your day-to-day products that you take for granted, how much engineering and how much production goes in behind it. And I think that's why I like working at DS Smith and as an engineer in general, really, is you get to think about the processing behind your day-to-day objects. As Chris said, you go to get from Amazon and you throw away the packaging and you don't really think of it. But since working here, I've really come to appreciate it. My family hate me for it. I always go, oh yeah, I made that work. It's a DS Smith thing when the parcel comes from Amazon, or we get a takeaway at McDonald's or something like that. So as I say, engineering at DS Smith and the apprenticeship that they offer has been brilliant for me. I can't recommend it enough. So as I say, if there's any questions, and I'm assuming I can pop it into the Q&A chat, and us three will be more than happy to answer any questions. That's about it for me. Don't know if anyone else has got anything else to add.
Thanks, Josh. Is there any questions in the chat?
Thank you very much, everyone. I believe we do have some questions in the chat, definitely some coming in for Josh there at the end, as well as a couple for you, Chris and Stuart as well. So if you could take some time to answer those, that would be brilliant. And thank you, Josh, for sharing an insight into your journey as an apprentice. I think it's really valuable to hear firsthand what an apprenticeship experience is like, and I know the Q&A. Clearly other people have a few additional questions to ask you, and thank you Chris and Stuart as well for such a detailed overview of DS Smith and the opportunities available. So yeah, as before, ask your questions in the Q&A, and we'll move on to our final session of the morning. Where did that time go? It's flown. We welcome now Penny Walsh from the University of Kent Academies Trust, and Penny is going to talk to you about the apprenticeship opportunities available at the Trust. So over to you, Penny.
Thank you so much for everyone attending this afternoon. It's really lovely to meet you. It would have been so much nicer to meet you in person, but we're really grateful for the opportunity to meet you virtually. I'm an Executive HR Officer at the University of Kent Academies Trust, and we refer to that as UKAT. So I'm just going to tell you a little bit about UCAT in the first instance. UCAT is a multi-academy trust, and what that means, it's a school made up of, it's a trust made up of more than one school. So we're quite small compared to other multi-academy trusts, and we have 2 schools, and they're both secondary schools located in Medway. We're very proud to have in our family Chatham Grammar School and Brompton Academy. Chatham Grammar is a selective school, which means it's grammar and children have to pass the 11+ to enter the school, and it's for ages 11 to 19-year-old girls. Brompton Academy is a mixed comprehensive school, and it's also 11 to 19-year-olds, but they're boys and girls. Both of the schools share a sixth form, and that's located on both of the sites, and that's girls and boys. So the benefits of being in a trust are that we work very collaboratively. Our aim is to transform the life choices of our students, but also of the wider community, and we impact the community a heck of a lot, and we like to do a lot of work with the community. So we have adult learning and we have apprenticeships. Please excuse me 1 second. Here we go. So our individual schools both have their own principals, and they're responsible for establishing the ethos and vision of each of the individual schools, but within a framework of trust, philosophy and values. Each school is different in its approach to learning, and each has its own core beliefs and values established. This enables us at UCAT to offer our students and our staff a unique experience where students and staff feel encouraged and supported and nurtured to be the best that they can be. We are ambitious and courageous, and we want our young people and our employees to reach their goals and aspirations, but also to go over and above those goals and aspirations and any limitations that they might perceive that exist. We're fortunate because both of our schools are located less than a mile apart, and we are on very good transport links. There's lots of public transport, trains and buses, and we're within walking distance for most of the towns within Medway. Being so close together means that we can share resources, work in a collaborative way, and it gives our employees much more opportunity because they're potentially able to apply for jobs in both of the academies, and we'll have that little foot in the door that just makes that a little bit easier. UCAT and each of the academies has its own comprehensive website, and I've put the links on screen today for you, so please do, if you're considering applying to one of our schools for an apprenticeship, please do go and visit those websites so you can gain a thorough understanding of what we're about. I would also encourage you to follow us on social media, and links to all of those social media platforms are on the bottom of the home screen for each of the academies. UCAT currently has around 300 employees, so as far as employers go, we are fairly small, and we have about 10 to 15 apprentices at any one time. Some of those are external, much like yourselves, and are new to the organisation, but we also use apprenticeships to train our current staff and upskill in areas that we need to, also to develop our own staff. Recruitment nationally since the pandemic has been really difficult, and we recognise that nationally there's a huge skill shortage in a lot of areas, education being one of them, and I know that you've heard about engineering today. So by becoming an apprentice, you really are going to develop that workforce of the future, and you have a really important role to play. So we hope that you really do consider an apprenticeship seriously. We find that really exciting, and at UCAT we're trying to grow our apprenticeship program immensely over the next 3 years. So we do hope that you find that as exciting as we do. We are an education establishment and we value continuous learning and development. As an apprentice with us, you would have access to a wide network of professionals and specialists who are well practiced in working with apprentices and would support your learning journey and beyond. So what does it mean to be an apprentice at UCAT? As an apprentice, you would have a full-time job, though there's maybe term time for some of our roles, and you have the additional benefit of additional learning whilst you're working. This winning combination means that you get the training and qualifications that you want in a career that interests you, and you're paid a salary at the same time. As a member of UCAT staff, you receive all of the same benefits as any other employee, which includes for us Benenden Healthcare, a generous public sector pension scheme, cycle to work schemes, free eye care tests and vouchers, mindfulness for staff, wellbeing and counselling services, yoga sessions. There is a free on-site gym at each of our locations and many other benefits beside. And again, I would just refer you back to those school websites and our UCAT website to see all the benefits that we have on offer. It's a very exciting time to join UCAT as an apprentice. We've worked with apprentices for many years, but apprentices and apprenticeships are always developing and widening, and we're hoping to do that at UCAT too. In the coming months, we're going to offer an increasing range of apprenticeship programs within the organisation, so please do watch this space. And for staff that are joining us for the first time, you would have access to all of those new qualifications, and as a staff member who was already on board with us, you would have access not only to those apprenticeships but maybe even a deeper or higher level qualification too. So some of our most recent apprenticeships have included business administrators, departmental technicians, which can be art and DT, it can be a science technician, it can include PE and sport technicians. We have finance assistants, receptionists, teaching assistants, caretakers. We also have higher level apprenticeships, which have included business managers, finance and HR managers, higher level teaching assistants, specialist teaching and children support, and also we hope to have in the future teacher apprenticeships. That's very new. We haven't got any teacher apprentices yet, but watch this space for that one too. When you join UCAT as an apprentice, you have the same rigorous induction as any other member of staff, and you will receive a very guided introduction to your role. The apprenticeship provider will allocate an advisor to you, and they will make contact very soon after you start, usually in the first week or so, to arrange a convenient schedule of times that they are going to come in to meet you and assess you on site. They will continue to meet with you on a regular basis and assess you throughout your apprenticeship, so you never have to worry that you're going to go long without that bit of a personal touch just to see how you're getting on. In addition to your advisor from our external providers, we're also going to allocate a line manager to you who will work with you on that day-to-day basis and just keep in touch and make sure that you're happy and satisfied in your role. They will mentor you, and they really will be that key person that's going to be your contact at UCAT. We will provide you with opportunity to cover all the requirements of your course, and that will be during your daily duties. We will also give you off-the-job training too. Depending on your role, that could vary as to what that is, but it can include shadowing more experienced members of staff. It can include mentoring sessions, time to write up your assessments, or time to attend training. That's just a little bit of a flavour of what it could include. So what are the benefits to you becoming an apprenticeship at all and with UCAT? As a UCAT apprentice, you will receive real hands-on experience in a real-life job, learning the right skills in the right environment. This is what employers are looking for when we're recruiting new staff. You will learn from our UCAT professionals and will have access to great support whilst you train. This will include working alongside experienced people and those that have done the role before, but also from specialist training providers such as IPS. The apprenticeship that you follow will have been designed with the support and help of employers such as UCAT. And so that means that the skills you're learning are those that are most valued by employers. And that's going to help you in your current career as an apprentice, but also going forward. Apprenticeships at UCAT are available on many different levels to suit your ambitions. There are some that are suitable for school leavers, 16 to 18-year-olds, right through to those that are suitable for those who have been in employment for many years. We cover a wide range of career choices. So again, that includes business, HR, finance, teaching assistant, pastoral managers. And at UCAT, you're also going to learn those transferable skills. Because our apprentices do those real jobs in real teams, you're going to be learning softer skills that are going to take you throughout your career. It will be making you more confident, and some of those skills will include team building, effective communications and problem solving. As a member of staff at UCAT, you're also going to have access to our internal CPD programme, and that's going to include areas such as safeguarding, child protection, diversity and equality, Office suite-based skills such as Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Office 365, and particularly if you're interested in a career in education, it's going to give you that critical school experience that most education establishments are looking for. So now what are we looking for as an apprentice at UCAT? So for any employer at UCAT, and that includes our apprentices, the most important thing that we look for is a positive attitude and potential. Each of our job listings will state the requirements for the role, and it's true that some of these are non-negotiable and essential. For example, you can't be a teacher unless you've got English and maths at grade C or 4 or above, and you can't be a teacher if you haven't got a degree. But for other roles, particularly those that are more entry level, the requirements are not essential, and for some of our roles there are very few entry requirements. At UCAT, the type of employee we're looking for is someone who's kind and empathetic, thoughtful and considered, creative and inspiring, and innovative and courageous. Our motto is that we're in it together, and as a collective staff body, we're always working towards securing the best outcomes for our young people in whatever role we play. We expect our apprentices to adhere to that too, and it would be really great if you're applying for us if you could mention that somehow in your statement. So what do you need to know before considering applying for an apprenticeship, particularly at UCAT? When you're searching for an apprenticeship, you're going to use the government portal, and that's where you'll find all of your apprenticeships. It's really important that you find an apprenticeship that really interests and inspires you. Take the time to read the job requirements and research the company, because it's really important that you align with their ethos and values and that you really want to work for them. Both of these things are going to really help you in creating your applications. When you're applying for a role with us, we look really favourably on any candidate who's taken the time to research us and who shows a genuine interest in us and the role they're applying for. In your personal statement, whether it's for your apprenticeship application or any application form, you should tell us what you know about UCAT, why you want to apply for us, and why you want to apply for that particular role or apprenticeship. When you're telling us about us and why you want to work for us, you might tell us that you used to be a student with us and want to come back and contribute to the outcomes of future students and future young people. Or you might have read something on our website that really inspires you and resonates with your core values. Or you might know someone that works for us who's recommended you and you really like what you've heard. Please tell us all of those things. When we're hearing about why you want to apply for the apprenticeship that you're applying for, you might tell us that you're applying for a certain role, such as finance assistant, because you want to be an accountant in the future. Or you might be applying for a teaching assistant apprenticeship because one day you want to be a teacher. It's absolutely fine also if you don't know what your future holds and you just think that the apprenticeship you're applying for in that moment is the right fit for you in that moment. That's absolutely fine too. You're going to use your statement to tell us how your current skills and experience prepare you to take on that role. So for experience, you might not have been a caretaker before and you're applying for a caretaker apprenticeship. But have you completed any work experience or volunteering that might have given you skills and experience associated with that role? You can also relate any skills and experience that you've gathered as a student to your apprenticeship applications. So have you run any clubs or taken part in any clubs? Have you done any volunteering or activities such as Duke of Edinburgh? What skills and experiences have you learnt there that you could relate to your applications? If you really think that you don't have any skills and experience that you can relate to your role, please don't worry. You can instead research the role that you're looking for. So for example, a HR assistant, and tell us what you know about that role and how your personality and personal attributes might be suitable instead. So are you really conscientious? Do you always like to be on time? Do you have great attention to detail? For UCAT, once you've applied for your role and the deadline for applications has passed, our partner providers send us all of the applications that meet our minimum requirements, and then we begin a process called shortlisting. Shortlisting is when we look at each of the applications individually and decide which candidates we'd like to meet in person and invite to interview. So it's really important that you complete your applications and personal statements as fully as possible to really try and sell yourself. As your application is the first contact that we're going to have with you, please read it through carefully and ask someone else to check it for you too if you can. This will enable you to give us the best first impression of you. Check for things like spelling and punctuation, and specifically autocorrect errors too, and make sure you've included all the information you've been asked for. At UCAT, once we've shortlisted our candidates, we will invite you to the selection process, and usually this includes a panel interview. That's 2 to 3 people who will be asking you questions and who you can ask questions to. You'll also have assessment tasks, and those can vary depending on the type of role that you're applying for. Sometimes it might include writing a letter, sometimes it might include a prioritisation task, or sometimes it can be planning a presentation. Usually there's nothing to prepare for in advance, but if there is, we will make sure to let you know. When you come for the interview too, we'll also be asking you to bring things like ID and documents. If there's anything that we ask you for that you don't have, just let us know and we can help you resolve those issues. After selection has taken place, all candidates will receive a call or email to let them know if they've been successful. And if you're not successful, we will always offer to give you feedback. Some people don't want it, but we think that it's a really useful tool for helping you to improve on future interviews and applications. So please do take us up on the offer of feedback if that's something that we can help you with. So we'll assume that you've started your apprenticeship with us and you've had all of that wonderful training with us and successfully completed your apprenticeship. So what happens after your apprenticeship with UCAT? So towards the end of your apprenticeship with us, we start planning for your future and helping you to do that too. We'll arrange to meet with you and discuss next steps. And one of those next steps might be applying for a current vacancy that we have at UCAT. Or you might choose to use the qualifications and skills that you've acquired during your apprenticeship in a new organisation, and that's fine too. Or you might be ready for a higher level of apprenticeship within UCAT. So you might start with a business administration level 2, and then decide that you're going to go up to the next level, a level 3 or 4. We'll also offer you the opportunity to attend our UCAT recruitment events, which will include CV building, applications, hints and tips, interview skill building, and many more besides. So, future prospects at UCAT. I'm just going to tell you very quickly about some of our success stories. So, some people that I can tell you about today are, one of them is an employee called Nicole. Nicole first joined us as a student services receptionist apprentice about 3 years ago. Nicole did very well and successfully completed her business admin apprenticeship, and then she decided that, having been in the school environment, she really resonated with a more student focused role, and so has moved into our pastoral team. Nicole's just finished her first year as a pastoral manager and is a very valued member of staff. So another of our success stories is an employee called Michelle. Michelle joined us as a teaching assistant about 4 years ago and followed the teaching assistant qualification by the apprenticeship scheme to complete that qualification, which was followed 18 months later by the higher level teaching assistant qualification, again via the apprenticeship scheme. Michelle's now moved into a specialist HLTA role, which is higher level teaching assistant, specialising in literacy with students who have English as an additional language. In a slightly different area, we have Bradley, who first joined us in an entry-level general office assistant role about 7 years ago. Bradley then joined the finance team and worked his way up through a variety of roles in finance, and he's going to start an apprenticeship program this month on his journey towards becoming a business manager. So just a few final thoughts for you. I hope that the information has proved useful to you today, and please do put your questions in the Q&A section if you have any questions for me. A few points I just want to highlight again and in summary for you. Find an apprenticeship that inspires and excites you. It's really, really important, and you will be so much more successful if in any apprenticeship or any job of the future you are inspired and excited, because you will perform your best and you'll be happy. Do your research. Ensure that the company that you're applying for is the right fit for you. If they don't have clear vision and values, or you don't align with their vision and values, it will be much more difficult for you to be successful in that organisation. You should be interviewing us as much as we're interviewing you. Complete your applications fully and provide all the information that you've been asked for. You have a much higher success rate of being shortlisted if you've given all of the information you've been asked for. Read through your application carefully, read it out loud. I find that's often helpful, and check for things like spelling mistakes and typos. That's the first impression anyone's going to have on you. Give them the best one that you can. Tell us about you in your application and really try and sell yourself. We all have skills and attributes that set us apart, so make sure to highlight yours. Again, please do put any questions in the Q&A for me. I'm more than happy to answer those. And please do have a look at our social media accounts and our websites for that information. And we would wish you the very best of luck with all of your applications in the future. And I think I'm just going to hand back over now. So thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you so much for that, Penny. That's really, really useful. And yeah, great to hear about such a broad range of apprenticeships, I think, available, which I'm sure is real food for thought for our viewers, as has been from, you know, our employers all morning. So we know there's some questions in the Q&A for you to answer, Penny. So if you wouldn't mind just spending a few moments answering those, that would be amazing. So thank you. That brings our event almost to a close. So I'm sure you'll all agree it's been a really informative morning of sessions with some really exciting apprenticeship opportunities in Kent and Medway this year, and please do look out for those opportunities, visit the websites. We'll share all of the information with you via email after this session, along with copies of the slides and a recording of the event, so you can refer back to them. So please remember, find apprenticeship and traineeship opportunities via the IPS website or via the main government website. And please also remember, if you want any advice or support about anything career related, apprenticeships or otherwise, then the National Careers Service is a free professional service that's available to you, and the contact details are available on the screen. So that's all from us, I think. Thank you very much for watching. Have a great afternoon,